It was an incident that happened on the way back from the restroom to the room.
Grandma, wait!
Kelly suddenly burst out of my husband's room. Her expression was as if she had been waiting for me for years. What? What's wrong?
I can't tell you here. We need to go somewhere private.
Without resistance, I was pulled along by my granddaughter, and she led me outside the building. Kelly finally stopped after we reached the courtyard. There was no one else around.
Here, this should be fine.
Breathing heavily, Kelly pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from the right pocket of her pants and tried to hand it to me.
Grandma, we have to do something before it's too late.
I took it from her trembling hand. Written in my husband John's handwriting, it read,
"Our lives are in danger, yours and mine. It's Emily's boyfriend. It seems like he's in financial trouble and might be after the insurance money. After me, Carol, the beneficiary, might be in danger. Don't worry about me. Just take Kelly and get out of here."
I read it over and over again, but the content was so shocking that it took me a considerable amount of time to fully comprehend it. Kelly, what is this? What does this mean? Kelly was still trembling.
After the person came, who is the director of this facility, Grandpa handed this to me. That director, something about him was off. He kept staring at us with this eerie smile.
Kelly, it's okay. I'm here now. Let's go talk to Grandpa first.
No, we can't. I don't want to go back there.
Kelly's resolve seemed firm, as she stubbornly refused to move. However, I couldn't just leave without saying anything to my husband, so I told Kelly to wait outside the facility, and I headed back inside the building.
Mom, I folded and put away the laundry.
Oh, thank you. I, Carol Smith, live with my husband John, who has mild dementia, my daughter Emily, who has returned home, and her daughter Kelly, the four of us together. However, my husband has already moved into a nursing home to avoid burdening us, so now it's just the three of us. John's dementia is still in its early stages, with only mild symptoms, yet he chose to leave on his own accord. I understand that he did it out of consideration for the family, but thinking about the mental exhaustion he must be going through weighs heavily on my heart. All I can do now is hope that the progression of his illness will be slow. If possible, I would love for us to live together as a family of four once again. As for my daughter Emily, although she returned home after her marriage ended, it doesn't seem to have been a particularly contentious split, and she parted ways relatively amicably. I might be biased, but thanks to her good upbringing, she has been managing our household quite well, even while balancing a part-time job. Thanks to Emily, her daughter Kelly, my granddaughter, has grown up to be a kind and resilient young girl. Watching my granddaughter grow up right before my eyes is the greatest joy of my life.
Well, I'm going to visit Dad now. Please take care of things while I'm gone.
Okay, send my regards to him. I can't visit my husband as often as Emily does. The reason lies in my chronic illness. Over the past few years, it has worsened slightly, making it increasingly difficult for me to move around as I wish. In my stead, my daughter Emily visits him almost every day. While I worry about the burden this might place on her, a part of me feels reassured knowing that I can rely on her. If someone as old and frail as I am were to go out every day, it would undoubtedly cause concern for everyone around me. In this regard, having my younger daughter or granddaughter visit him alleviates that worry. My husband would probably be happier to see his daughter and granddaughter than to see the face of the wife he's looked at for decades. However, there's one thing that has been bothering me. Since childhood, Emily has had a hard time with her strict father. Yet now, she eagerly goes to visit him. That was the case just now, too. I've tried to convince myself that I'm just overthinking it, but I can't shake the feeling. "Hey, Emily." I called out to her as she finished getting ready at the entrance.
What is it?
Well, I was just thinking how much you've changed. You used to complain so much about how you couldn't stand your father. Now you seem to enjoy going to see him.
Oh, that. I'm not a child anymore, and after what happened to Dad, he's not scary at all. Besides, something good happened recently.
Something good?
Yes, I got a boyfriend.
Her words were so sweet that it nearly made my teeth, crowns, and dentures all come loose. But it's certainly not a bad thing. I see. Just be careful this time.
I know.
With that, Emily headed out the door. One afternoon. The gentle flow of a solitary, elegant time bathed in the setting sun. Savoring my favorite herbal tea and nibbling on my favorite tea snacks, I enjoy a peaceful page from my daily life. Emily had left for her part-time job before noon, and my granddaughter Kelly had gone to school in the morning. With most of the household chores already done, all that was left was to wait for them to come home. At that moment, I noticed a strange scent coming from the herbal tea I had just sipped. It was a smoky, toasted aroma, something that clearly didn't belong in the steam rising from the tea. As I looked around the room, I realized that this was not the only unusual thing. Smoke was visibly drifting in from the dining room. Startled, I stood up, but the moment I did, my consciousness suddenly slipped away.
Can you hear me? Grandma.
I felt as though someone was calling me near my ear, but I couldn't open my eyes, and my mind remained foggy, unable to grasp what was happening. I couldn't respond to the voice and soon drifted back into unconsciousness. Suddenly, my consciousness became clear. The surrounding noises became distinct. I could hear someone talking, the electronic hum of machines, and the high-pitched clanging of what sounded like metal instruments colliding. After a while, I finally managed to open my eyes, and the first thing I saw was Kelly's face.
Grandma. Oh, thank goodness, you're awake. I'll go get the doctor right away.
Although my vision wasn't entirely clear, I noticed that her eyes seemed swollen and red. Her voice also sounded somewhat nasally, as if she had been crying. I must have caused her a lot of worry. When I turned my head sharply to the side, I saw another person sitting there, its face also red with emotion.
Mom, are you okay?
I'm okay, but what happened? My memory was cut off on that elegant afternoon. When I looked out the window, the sun had already set. Considering how dark it was at this time of year, I must have been asleep for quite a while, but my memory was hazy, and I couldn't recall anything.
Mom, you collapsed at home. Kelly found you when she came back from school and called an ambulance to bring you here. I'm so sorry. It's my fault.
So, this is a hospital, it seems. Looking around more carefully now, it became obvious. The various sounds I had heard earlier now made sense. The cold electronic beeps were coming from right above my head. But what did she mean by "it's my fault"? Emily, calm down. I'm okay for now. But what do you mean by my fault? You weren't even home today. You were at your part-time job, right?
It's because I wasn't there. I think I left the fish grilling and forgot about it. I can't believe I did something like that. I'm really sorry.
As the fog in my memory began to clear, it all started to come back to me. That's right. I smelled something burning besides the herbal tea. It must have been the fish in the oven burning. I must have passed out from carbon monoxide poisoning. Still, forgetting about the fish grilling is not like the usually meticulous Emily. She's not one to make such trivial, yet life-threatening, mistakes. If Kelly hadn't found me in time, who knows what might have happened if I had remained unconscious for that long. It sends chills down my spine just thinking about it. Honestly, I want to say a lot of things, but I'm not in the mood right now. Just make sure to thank Kelly. And of course, I have to thank her too. As we were talking, Kelly returned, bringing the doctor and a nurse with her. Her eyes were indeed red and swollen. It seemed there were no lasting physical issues, and I finally felt a sense of relief. At my age, even a small problem can easily turn into something serious. I'm just grateful to Kelly right now. Kelly, thank you. If you hadn't saved me, I might not have made it.
I'm just glad you're okay. I was really worried. Mom, please be more careful so something like this doesn't happen again.
I'm really sorry.
At that moment, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could my daughter have early onset Alzheimer's? Just like my husband, it's not impossible that it could be hereditary. While I desperately hope it's just my imagination, I can't help but feel that this explanation makes too much sense, and I was overwhelmed with a deep sense of self-loathing. A few days later, my body, which had collapsed from carbon monoxide poisoning, made a smooth recovery with no significant issues. Even my chronic illness had somewhat stabilized, so I decided to visit my husband for the first time in a while.
It's been a long time since we went out together, Grandma.
Yes, it has. It was a holiday, and with Emily out for her part-time job, Kelly and I took the bus and strolled leisurely to the nursing home. Hello, dear. How are you feeling? Do you still remember me?
Don't be silly. Of course, I remember you.
I was relieved. He could still take a joke. The nursing home, as always, was remarkably clean, so much so that it felt like a grand mansion or estate. The view from the window was excellent. While there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy outside, the home's position on a slight hill provided a good view of the town. In the courtyard, a few elderly residents were enthusiastically playing pickleball. Although they likely had their own serious reasons for being here, they appeared full of life.
It's been a while, Kelly. Thanks for coming. Come on, sit down.
In a tastefully decorated room, not too extravagant, the three of us, an elderly couple and their granddaughter, chatted happily. When my husband was younger, he was incredibly stubborn, the epitome of a man from the old days. But perhaps being diagnosed with dementia had taken a toll on him, as his once stubborn nature had greatly softened. In fact, he was now doting and affectionate in front of his granddaughter. I thought to myself how much people can change. It happened on the way back to the room from the restroom.
Grandma, wait a moment.
Kelly suddenly burst out of my husband's room. Her expression was as if she had been waiting for me for years. What? What's wrong?
I can't tell you here. We need to go somewhere private.
Without resistance, I let my granddaughter lead me outside the building. Kelly finally stopped after we reached the courtyard. The group of pickleball players I had seen earlier was gone, leaving the garden empty.
Here, this should be fine.
Breathing heavily, Kelly pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from the right pocket of her pants and tried to hand it to me.
Grandma, we have to do something before it's too late.
I took it from her trembling hand. It was written in my husband's handwriting.
Our lives are in danger, yours and mine. It's Emily's boyfriend. It seems like he's in financial trouble and might be after the insurance money. After me, Carol, the beneficiary, might be in danger. Don't worry about me. Just take Kelly and get out of here.
I read it over and over again, but the content was so shocking that it took me a considerable amount of time to fully comprehend it. Kelly, what is this? What does it mean? Kelly was still trembling.
After the person came, who is the director of this facility, Grandpa handed this to me. That director, something about him was off. He kept staring at us with this creepy smile.
Kelly, it's okay. I'm here now. Let's go talk to Grandpa first.
No, we can't. I don't want to go back there.
Kelly was adamant, refusing to move from where she stood. However, I couldn't leave without saying anything to my husband, so I told Kelly to wait outside the facility while I headed back inside the building. Hey. I saw the note. Is it true? My husband's wrinkled face tensed up completely, and he glanced around as if checking his surroundings. It seemed he was taking this seriously.
Yes, it's true. It might sound strange coming from someone with dementia, but I clearly remember that conversation. It's stuck in my head and won't go away.
Something about his words struck me as odd, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was.
In any case, don't worry about me. Take Kelly and get out of here. Come back once things have cooled down. Until then, find somewhere to hide.
There was no doubt. His words contained no lies or jokes. It was the voice of someone who was utterly consumed by fear. Shortly after Kelly and I returned home, Emily came back from her part-time job. She seemed unusually cheerful. The contrast between her mood and the fear Kelly and I had experienced at the nursing home was stark.
You went to see Dad today, didn't you? Thank you.
It's nothing.
Oh, by the way, my birthday is coming up in 2 weeks, right? I'm going to bring the boyfriend I told you about before, so make sure to treat him well.
What a situation. I almost refused outright, but I stopped myself just in time. This wasn't the moment to act openly. While I hadn't fully accepted my husband's words, his serious warning had planted seeds of doubt in my mind. I realized that I might need to take some action. I thought hard and came to a conclusion. I would hire a detective to investigate this boyfriend and find out what kind of person he really was. This was the best resistance my old bones could muster. All right, I replied. The next day, I promptly visited a detective agency. The request was simple. I want you to investigate my daughter's boyfriend. I decided not to mention anything about my husband's dementia, thinking they might dismiss me outright if I did.
Understood. The investigation will take about a week to 10 days. Is that acceptable?
If it's no more than 10 days, it should be in time. I felt slightly relieved. Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Then please provide your contact information, and I'll keep you updated.
Afterward, I also went to the police station. Honestly, I didn't have much hope here. I thought that if an elderly person suddenly came in claiming that their life was in danger, they wouldn't take it seriously. But my expectations were pleasantly surprised.
Can you tell me more about this?
I felt reassured again, but even here, I didn't go into detail about my husband's story. I was still afraid that they would dismiss it as just dementia.
I understand. It may be difficult to act on this information alone, but if anything happens, please contact us immediately.
I wondered how they would have reacted if they knew the information came from a dementia patient. The thought made me a little uneasy. 8 days later, on a rainy day, I once again visited the detective agency alone.
First, regarding your daughter's boyfriend, his name is Mark Brown. Does that name sound familiar?
I thought for a moment, but nothing came to mind.
I see. He is the director of a nursing home in this town, but we uncovered some concerning details about him.
As the detective spoke, he pulled out a photograph. The director of a nursing home. I immediately reconsidered my previous answer. I felt the dots connecting into a single line, a sensation that would normally be satisfying, but now it was unbearably unsettling.
There are suspicions that he has been misappropriating funds from the facility for personal use.
As if to further deepen the blow, this bad news came to light. My suspicions turned into certainty in that very moment.
We intend to provide these findings to the police. How would you like to proceed as our client?
Yes, that's fine. I'll leave everything regarding that to you. And so the fateful day arrived. As Emily had mentioned earlier, she invited her boyfriend to our home. I decided that I couldn't let Kelly be present for this, so I arranged for her to wait at the nursing home where my husband was staying. However, she wasn't just waiting. I had set up a call between my phone and Kelly's so she could listen to the entire conversation, and in case anything happened, she would be ready to alert the authorities.
Hello. Actually, this isn't the first time we've met. My name is Mark, the director of Brown Care. Nice to officially meet you.
There was no mistake. My suspicion was confirmed as reality. This Mark, Emily's boyfriend, was the very person who had brought us so much fear, and we had all the evidence to prove it. There was no way I could simply welcome him into our home. I'm sorry, but I need you to leave.
What?
What do you mean? Did I do something wrong?
At that moment, I understood what Kelly meant by his creepy smile. It was a terrifying grin, as if he could see right through us. But I couldn't back down now. You're doing something wrong, aren't you? We have the evidence.
I don't know what you're talking about. Accusing me without any basis, that's quite the welcome.
Since he continued to feign innocence, I pulled out the prepared evidence. It was conclusive proof of Mark's wrongdoing. If you turn yourself in now, the punishment might be lighter. But if you refuse to admit it, I'll report you myself. Emily, not understanding what was happening, watched our confrontation in stunned silence.
What's the meaning of this? You prepare all this, and then you dare speak to me like that just because I was trying to be polite?
Finally, his mask came off. Now, all I could do was trust Kelly and wait.
Well, I'm tired of pretending. Let me share a little secret with you. Your daughter tried to kill you for the insurance money.
What are you talking about? Was he trying to unsettle me at this stage? Mark continued with his shocking words.
You collapsed from carbon monoxide poisoning, right? That was your daughter's doing.
I turned to look at Emily, and her expression had hardened. As her mother, I knew her well. That was the face she made when she was hiding something. No, that can't be true.
No, Mom. I didn't.
She's head over heels for me. She'll do anything I say. When I mentioned how the insurance beneficiary might change if you were out of the picture, she tried to take you out. Cold-hearted, isn't it?
So this was the creepy smile Kelly had talked about. How twisted and ugly it was. But that wasn't the main issue. The accident was orchestrated by my daughter. As unbelievable as it sounded, Mark didn't seem to be lying. If anything, it was Emily who was lying. I had once worried that my daughter might have early onset Alzheimer's, but if this was intentional, how terrifying. I was so overwhelmed by fear that, for a moment, it felt as if time had stopped. I couldn't move, think, or even breathe.
Looks like you're shocked. No surprise there. Poor mother.
I'm sorry, Mom.
She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her face was contorted in anguish as she cried without regard for anyone watching.
They say love is blind, and boy, is it miserable.
Each of his words struck a nerve, and within the frozen moment, a whirlwind of rage and hatred began to roar inside me. At that moment, the doorbell rang. The time that had been frozen within me began to move again, and I was finally able to act. The intercom monitor showed two men in Navy uniforms. One of them was the officer who had kindly listened to me before. It seemed Kelly had done well.
What do you want? I haven't done anything.
We received a report that a person suspected of embezzlement had entered this home and was making threats. You are Mark Brown, correct? We need you to come with us to the station to answer some questions.
I refuse. This is a voluntary accompaniment, isn't it? If you're taking someone, take her. She's the one who tried to kill her own mother, a would-be murderer.
Is that so? Even if that's true, how do you know about it?
Foolishly, Mark had dug his own grave.
And by the way, this isn't voluntary. This is a warrant for your arrest. Your name is on it.
It seemed the detective had also done his due diligence. The situation had shifted from 2 against 1 to 2 against 3. With the tables turned, the fear that had gripped my heart finally began to loosen.
At 8:35 p.m., you are under arrest on suspicion of embezzlement.
Even so, my heart wouldn't stop pounding. The fear of what had just occurred made my heart beat heavily, as if to emphasize the gravity of the situation.
Also, we need to ask you about this attempted murder, so you'll need to come with us as well.
Emily was still crouched on the floor, crying. She could no longer bear the weight of her guilt. It's no wonder, given that she had tried to harm her own parent. But what was Emily thinking when she decided to go through with this plan? Did she believe that if the attempt failed, she wouldn't be held accountable? That must be it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have so casually talked about introducing her boyfriend. I suddenly realized just how much I had failed in raising her. I never imagined my own daughter could be so foolish. Finally, a thought struck me. Emily's first words when I was taken to the hospital. I see. That I'm sorry back then, that's what it meant. How are you finding the new place?
Oh, it's not bad. If anything, I'm just worried we're putting a bit of strain on you all.
It's not much different. A 15-minute drive has just turned into a 30-minute drive. That's all.
Is that so?
After the incident, my husband was moved to a different nursing home. It was the obvious choice. As John mentioned, the new facility is a bit farther away than the previous one, but the peace of mind it offers makes the distance insignificant. For some reason, however, my husband's condition has slowed its progression, and his doctor even suggested
He might be able to spend time at home again in the future.
there's nothing more wonderful than the idea of John and I watching our granddaughter grow up together. However, I didn't want to cause unnecessary worry, so I haven't told John about what happened with Emily. The only regret is that Kelly found out the truth. While I couldn't think of any other way, I never expected to reveal such a harsh reality. Yet, Kelly responded bravely, saying,
It's okay, Grandma. You're still alive, after all.
I later heard from the detective agency that Mark, the subject of the investigation, was charged with embezzlement and incitement to murder, and Emily is currently being held in custody on charges of attempted murder. Honestly, I still haven't fully recovered from the shock. I'm less concerned about myself, but when I think about Kelly, who will likely be left alone in the not-too-distant future, my heart aches. That's why, at the very least, I need to stay healthy until she finds a life partner. With that in mind, I've started paying more attention to my health from various angles so that we can spend as much time as possible with Kelly. What did you think of this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.